Mike, you brought up an interesting point, too, before we came on the air, too, about the quarterback situation with Parkland. It's always seemed to be an issue with them, who's going to be their quarterback and how well the quarterback does. This year, though, they have two established guys. They're a little bit different, and we're going to be hearing from Jim Morgan and some of the Parkland players later on in tonight's show. But the adage is if you have two quarterbacks, you don't have any quarterbacks. But I don't think that's the case here with this Parkland team.
No, that's only for my Jets. You have four quarterbacks, you have none. But they, with Devontae Cross, obviously came in for Nick Zambelli, and I think both of them prove that they can both move the football. But obviously, their athletes get in space, and Joe and I talked about this before we came on. It becomes almost like a punt return every time they get their hands on the football out in space, whether it's a swing pass or a screen or some sort of draw. But when you get that many athletes on the field, and it shows up a lot more even on defense, the way they close to the football and the way they can cover people, and it allows you to play a little bit more man-to-man. But I think we talked about this as well. I think Parkland actually might be more athletic this year than they've been in the past.
Someone mentioned that this Parkland team is so deep, even more deep than last year. I think the same for Easton. I mean, you look, they have multiple wide receivers, they have multiple running backs, they have multiple quarterbacks too, if you want to get technical. Brad Wilkins is the guy, but they have a couple different people they can mix in there. As far as that depth, which team do you think, with Simpson and Ford doing a lot of different things, do you think that's kind of a wild card and they have a little bit more of an element of surprise?
Well, I've seen them do a number of different things with Simpson. I mean, he just doesn't play tailback. And we saw him early in his career as a freshman. He was a wide receiver. Yeah. I mean, you love him in the slot. You love him on the wheel routes. You love him just one-on-one down the sideline. I remember him making a catch, 50, 60-yard catch. And I said, this kid's 14, 15 years old now, more mature. So they can put him in a lot of different spots. And over the years, I've seen, Coach Chevrolet over there put different formations. Always has a new formation, whether it's going to be trips wide one way or trips the other way or some sort of motion. It looks very much like an easy offense to get ready for, but in the long run, you can put him in a lot of different spots, and I think that's something that they're going to have to do.
I want to continue on talking about some of the teams in the LVC, and then we're going to get to Colonial League. Whitehall had that win. We just heard from one of our viewers about that. They defeated Springford. Someone was saying that Ryan Bonchak, he only got 23 yards. Rushed for 23 yards in that ball game, and that might be a concern. But I talked to Brian Gilbert about a week and a half ago, and he was gushing about the depth they have at their skilled positions. Obviously, they're very young. They have a lot of sophomores who have been, from what I heard, looking pretty good, and they might surprise some people as well. But Coach Gilbert was very confident about the different options he had running the ball and passing the ball. So I don't think it's any kind of knock that Ryan Bonchak only had 23 yards rushing. I still think they are going to be one of those top teams, and we're going to see a lot of different playmakers as the season goes on. Joe, your thoughts on the Zephyrs?
Listen, they've established themselves now as one of those teams that I think every year is going to be pretty good. Maybe they're not on Easton or a Parkland every year, but they're certainly going to be very successful because they've got a great head coach. They've got an outstanding assistant coaching staff, and they're starting to build a program, and they're well on to the way of building a very successful. So they're going to be good. The whole key to that football team is going to be can their offensive line, with the inexperience that they have, can they be good enough to play in the Lehigh Valley Conference week in and week out? That's going to be the key. They're going to have skilled people. Yeah. Yes, they lost a great quarterback, but the kid that's in there now, if they've got a good enough offensive line, hand the ball off and let them do their job. So I think the keys to Whitehall are going to be that offensive line, how well they develop. Defensively, they're going to be very good.
Keith and Mike, your thoughts on the Zephyrs?
Well, you remember that in the last 6 years, they've had two quarterbacks. Some teams have had six quarterbacks in 6 years.
Right,
so this is Charles, obviously his first year, and you go back and they're just going to struggle with that position. And we talked about it earlier. You got to get good quarterback play. You got to get a guy that can make plays with his feet and make plays in the pocket. And can they do that? They're loaded with talent too. I mean, they have a lot of kids. Barkley and Rex and Williams. They have some players. Hodgson, Young. I mean, they have some really nice players. The question is going to be can they do it? There's an abundance of talent throughout the whole LVC. A lot of these kids are almost clones of each other. They play corner, they play running back, they play wide out and slot, and they can do a lot of different things. The question is these teams are going to go as far as the quarterback takes them. And like I said, they've had two quarterbacks in 6 years, and obviously Charles is going to have to step in and show that he's the guy.
Well, first of all, I think they should invite me, because last week I got the pleasure on Thursday, this very time frame, I was up at Whitehall, and something came over me. I was just to talk to the team.
What's wrong with Whitehall?
And something came over me that
Well,
I
while you were
really
in
got
Whitehall.
passionate. And I said, you guys, Whitehall tradition, this is a blue collar town. This is a blue collar community. And you may not have the stars that some other people have, but you're going to give it your best shot. And I really get fired up. And I was ready to lead the team on the field that night.